the Netherlands, Germany, Italy, Ireland, the United States, Singapore, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, Greece and Bulgaria. Visitors will find information about free tuition in the Nordic countries, but also about a scholarship fund of €3 million for bachelor and master's degrees in Great Britain, the Netherlands and Germany. At the RAUF Youth Forum, there will be more than 30 workshops, talks and presentations. The topics of discussion include online marketing, branding, gaming, IT, architecture, non-formal education and technology. The British Prime Minister Theresa May said on Saturday that Moscow's response to the sanctions decided by London did not change the facts of the matter, namely Russia's part in the poisoning of the former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter in Salisbury, England. Theresa May stated that Great Britain would decide the next steps in the coming days together with its international allies, following Russia's decision on Saturday to expel 23 British diplomats. On Saturday morning, the UK ambassador to Russia was summoned by the Russian Foreign Ministry for the second time this week. Russia has also decided to stop any activity of the British Council on Russian soil. The British Council is the United Kingdom's international organization for cultural relations and educational opportunities. The measures were announced just one day before the presidential elections in Russia, as a result of which Vladimir Putin would get his fourth term. According to France Press, the Kremlin is worried that a low turnout would weaken the legitimacy of the otherwise predictable outcome. Putin has been heading Russia for 18 years as president and once as a prime minister. His main opponent, Alexei Navalny, has been non-eligible. Navalny has called on the population to boycott Sunday's elections. And now sports. Romania's national rugby team, ranking 17th in the world, on Sunday will play against the team of Georgia away from home in the last leg of Rugby Europe International Championship 2018. Romania is hoping for qualification to the World Cup to be hosted by Japan in 2019. The Oaks, as the Romanian rugby players are dubbed, have defeated Russia, Germany and Belgium and have lost to Spain. In the competition's classification, Georgia ranks first, followed by Romania. The Romanian tennis player Simona Halep, number 1 in the WTA rankings, has failed to qualify for the final of the Indian Wells Tournament. $1 million in prize money, as she was defeated by the Japanese Naomi Osaka in 2 sets, 6-3, 6-0. Halep won the Indian Wells Trophy back in 2015, but this year she has already sustained 2 defeats. However, she remains top of the rankings. In the final, Naomi Osaka will play against Russian Daria Kasatskina, who has defeated the American Venus Williams. To end the news, a reminder of the main stories. 4 years since the illegal annexation of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea and the city of Sevastopol by the Russian Federation, Romania is once again firmly condemning that violation of international law, regulations and principles. And on Sunday, Romania's national rugby team will take on the team of Georgia in the last leg of Rugby Europe International Championship 2018.
Coming up next, The Week in Review.
Welcome to The Week in Review with us, Diana Vujeu
and Eugen Nasta.
The International Monetary Fund recommends a balanced mix of monetary and fiscal policy support. An IMF mission visited Bucharest this week. Fund officials met with Prime Minister Viorica Dăncilă, highlighting the need to step up tax collection and maintain public spending within sustainable limits. The Prime Minister said the economic and fiscal measures adopted by the government are viable, estimating an economic growth of 6.1%, mostly based on funds. For nearly 2 weeks, the IMF made a comprehensive analysis of Romania's economy, a process that must be seen through every year in every EU member state that has no ongoing agreement with the IMF. And officials met with authorities, representatives of political parties, trade unions, business associations, academia and banks.
The heavy rainfall and the massive snow meltdown triggered by the unexpectedly soaring temperatures across the country have caused a rise in the flow of several rivers in Romania. According to the Interior Ministry, floods affected dozens of villages in various areas, the most serious of which were reported in central Romania. Line Minister Carmen Dan went to personally ascertain the damages, trying to convince the locals to leave their homes until the danger has passed.
Romania's Foreign Minister Teodor Meleșcanu received his Bulgarian and Greek counterparts in Bucharest, Ekaterina Zahareva and Nikos Kotsias, respectively. The three held talks during the Bucharest-Sofia-Athens trilateral meeting and discussed issues of strategic regional relevance, such as the developments in the West Balkans, the Eastern neighborhood, the Black Sea area, the Danube strategy, and the prospects of the peace process in the Middle East. The three ministers agreed that community funds are grounded on the principle of European solidarity and that the future EU budget should be balanced and not sacrifice subsidies to agriculture and cohesion. Also this week, Bucharest hosting a meeting of NATO defense ministers from 9 former communist states. The ministers agreed that NATO's eastern flank must be consolidated. Romania's Defense Minister Mihai Fifor said Allied presence is robust alongside NATO's entire eastern flank, both in the northeast in the Baltic states as well as in the southeast in Romania and the Black Sea region. Bucharest and Warsaw are the engines of the so-called B9 initiative, which also comprises Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Slovakia and Hungary. The foreign ministers of the 9 countries wanted to reach a common approach ahead of the NATO summit scheduled to take place in Brussels in July.
In a message launched on Wednesday, the Romanian Foreign Ministry has expressed solidarity with the United Kingdom and firmly condemned the use of a military-grade nerve agent on the territory of an allied state. The reaction Theresa May has said Moscow was guilty of the poisoning in southwestern Great Britain of the former Russian double agent Sergei Skripal, of his daughter and of a British police officer. Many voices of the international community have deemed Skripal's poisoning as a severe breach of international norms and agreements on chemical weapons.
The number of communes and towns in the Republic of Moldova, a former Soviet state with a predominantly Romanian-speaking population, where mayors and local councils have adopted symbolical declarations stating their wish to reunite with Romania, has reached 120. These local leaders, as well as all those supporting the reunification idea, are expected in Chișinău this month to attend a big People's Assembly to mark 100 years since Bessarabia united with Romania. Initiated by the Alliance for the Centennial Anniversary, made up of civic organizations from the Republic of Moldova, Romania and the diaspora, the meeting is meant to reiterate their confidence that the Union is the only solution to restoring historical truth, joining the EU and NATO, to ensuring welfare and freedom. A province with a majority Romanian-speaking population and part of the Tsarist Empire, they united with Romania in the wake of the First World War on March the 27th, 1918. The Soviet Union re-annexed it in 1940 following an ultimatum, and on part of its territory the current Republic of Moldova was set up.
20 years on since it was honorary guest of the International Book Fair in Leipzig in eastern Germany, Romania has again enjoyed this status this week. One of the oldest events of its kind in the world, which promotes reading, has brought together over 2,500 exhibitors from 48 countries. Visitors had the chance to meet Romanian writers who are already well known in the German-speaking area, such as Nora Iuga, Mircea Cărtărescu, Norman Mana and Filip Florian, as well as budding writers like Lavinia Braniște and Bogdan Alexandru Stănescu. Over 40 translations from Romanian literature, most of them supported by the National Book Center with the Romanian Cultural Institute, have been promoted. country.
Regional meetings in Bucharest.
Solidarity with the United Kingdom.
A unionist wave is sweeping the Republic of Moldova.
And Romanian books in Germany.
That was the Week in Review.
You are listening to Radio Romania International. World of Culture.
Welcome to World of Culture, today about live. At the microphone, Diana Vujeu.
And Eugen Nasta.
Who are we today, 100 years on? Who are Romania's citizens? What problems are they facing after their country experienced 2 world wars, over 40 years of communism, and some 30 years of transition to capitalism? What impact have these events had on people from various generations and belonging to various ethnic minorities? And, no less important, what is the future they dream of? These are some of the questions to be answered by the project titled Microhistory Through Stories Told Live, produced by the Romanian Association for the Promotion of Performing Arts, jointly with the National Radio Drama Department. Launched in October 2017 under the title Romania 100 Two Stories Told Live, the project reached Microhistory has the ambitious goal of compiling a special archive made up of stories told by common people. In our hands, of people who have the invitation to tell a personal story on stage before 100 unknown people. 13 stories have been selected at each edition, told to the public and then archived on the website www.microhistoria.ro.
The person in charge of the was Florentina Ratvanov, who told us about how the finalists were selected.
Sunt oameni pe care eu i-am găsit organic, din recomandările oamenilor.
It was a matter of organic choice, so to speak, at the recommendation of people around me and people who knew the project team. On January 15th, I started making those invitations and talking to various people. I didn't know most of them. We had some very interesting meetings and we kept telling stories for 3-4 hours in a row. The type of communication was just like an embrace, because they told me their stories and I told them mine, out of the wish to get to know as much as possible about a person who is practically a perfect stranger. Basically, the criteria we used were gender and age. But there are stories that are more telling and relevant than others. For instance, it was the story of an 18-year-old teenage girl, which seemed extremely relevant to me, although I'm twice her age. So what mattered in particular was the story, stage charisma, and the way in which people narrated their stories.
Director Peter Kerek was the one who prepared the finalists for the stage for the encounter with the public.
Le-am oferit posibilitatea de a sta în fața publicului, publicul în cazul ăsta erau
We
ceilalți.
offered them the chance to stand before the public. In this case, they were the other group, and do nothing, say nothing, just think what they wanted. There were 5-minute moments of silence, and then we started to combine them with music. There were group and individual silence, so we practically closed the speaking door to only reopen it before the public. First and foremost, we wanted them to hear their own story, to understand what they were really interested in, what type of story, and then to process it and become listeners to their own story.
At the second edition of capitalism. One of those who took part in the casting was Dana Vlăsceanu. Aged 36, an ethnic Roma and a former drug addict, Dana Vlăsceanu told us how she ended up running a community center and helping the inhabitants of the Ferentar district in Bucharest.
Dana Vlăsceanu wanted to take part in the project because she believed it was very important to set examples and that her story could motivate and guide people.
Eu m-am schimbat foarte mult. Oamenii care mă cunosc de 8 ani știu asta. Ca și om am rămas același.
I've changed a lot. People who've known me for 8 years know that. I'm the same person, but I have evolved. I wanted to learn more, and I did it, and I am still learning. I went back to school because I had only graduated from the 7th grade. I wanted to be an example for my children. My close friends are happy for me and my achievements. At the center, we started to work with the children living in the community. We have organized all sorts of workshops, activities, Christmas parties. We have really got involved in the community. People who need something in particular and do not know what to do usually come to us. They know I can guide them.
Thomas Mendel, aged 39, is a dentist. In 1988, he and his family left Romania and settled in Israel. He came back to the country in 2003.
Thomas Mendel believes that stories can inspire us. Of the many stories that had changed his life, he chose to tell a story from his childhood.
În 89 a venit bunica mea în vizită în Israel și dimineața am mers cu ea.
In 1989, grandma came to Israel. And she burst into tears. As I was a child, it was really disturbing to see a strong woman who had coped with everything back in Romania crying like that. It was probably the first time I realized how difficult it had been back in Romania and how tormented those people were. I think the contrast between the two worlds is very important. We have to be able to understand where we are and where we could be. Truth and justice have a high price sometimes, just like freedom, but they are worth fighting for. And if you get involved in something and make sacrifices and take courageous decisions, then you stand the chance of getting into a better world.
The initiator of the Micro-History Project and its curator is theatre critic Cristina Mudranu, who underlined at the end of the second edition that a very interesting and diverse fresco of very personal was taken, narrated by people from various walks of life, different backgrounds and age brackets.
And that was World of Culture.
Roots.
Welcome to Roots. We are Mihaela Ignatescu
And Eugen Nasta.
Early spring means the rebirth of as well as the resumption of agrarian activities. In the archaic world, time cycles required man's intervention. In the first half of the month, gardens, orchards and vineyards used to be fertilized by spreading on the ground the ash resulting from the burning of dry wood and twigs. In days of yore, the main role of this open-air burning was to help the sun overcome the critical moment of the equinox. In Romanian tradition, the calendar was divided in keeping with the moments of passage throughout a year. Celebrations with fixed dates as well as celebrations whose dates changed from one year to the next were set in accordance with the most relevant changes at cosmic level.
The months of the year, the seasons, equinoxes and solstices were frequently represented in an allegoric manner by ancient societies, and many of them were associated with a patron saint. Such a patron saint associated with spring is Saint Theodore marked in the church calendar starting with the month of February.
Ethnologist Florin Ionuț Filip Nakshu will next give us details on these celebrations devoted to Saint Theodore or Sântoader in Romanian tradition.
Sărbătorile din această lună sunt legate de Sfinții Teodor, care sunt și în calendarul ortodox.
This month's celebrations are related to Theodore, who is present also in the Orthodox calendar. Saint Theodore is also known as the patron saint of horses. On February the 8th, the Eastern Orthodox Church Saint Theodore. On February the 13th, the time when people in rural communities usually cleaned their vineyards and orchards by burning dry wood and twigs. These open-air fires are said to change from the snakes and lizards.
According to traditional legend, 6 black and 6 white. Saint Theodore is their guardian, and each year the white horses try to chase the black horses away. That is why, until the spring equinox, a real fight is taking place between these animals. The white horses are expected to win by March the 23rd, when the sun will go up in the sky again. Speaking about that, here is the ethnologist Ionuț Filip Neactu once again.
Oamenii înconjurau casele și grădinile cu tămâie arsă și fumul acesta.
People would burn frankincense and go around their houses and gardens to protect them for bugs, caterpillars and snakes. Moreover, on the St. Martyr's feast day, celebrated on March 10th, a bowl of milk near the house foundation to lure and tame the white snake of the house.
According to the traditional calendar, Saint Theodore is the one who possible event that might affect. Although the celebration
For listeners in Western Europe and North America, the East Coast has come to an end. You can listen to our next program for Western Europe at 23 hours UTC on 5980 and 7220 kHz. Our listeners in North America, the East Coast, can listen to us tomorrow at 1 hours UTC on 6130 and 7325 kHz. We can also be heard on the internet at www.rri.ro, Channel 1. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write an email at engl@rri.ro. Goodbye.